Questlove of the Roots, winding up here again. Canadian connections. I love the fact that Scott Storch, who is Scott Storch for the people out there that don't know, and how does his life differ from you? What's a day in the life of Scott Storch, a former Roots, versus Questlove, a modern day Root?
All right, when Scott Storch wakes up in the morning, there are probably 3 other women in his bed with him. When I wake up in the morning, 9 times out of 10, my cell phone's in hand, and I realize that I fell asleep on my girl again. So usually my morning starts off with an apology. Yo, did we say goodbye last night? And I fell asleep on you. Well, you don't have to get mad at. Fuck you too. You know, I mean, that's how it is. When Scott Storch drives his car, the worth of it is probably my fiscal year, whatever it was for that particular year that we're in. My car is a very simple cheese box looking Scion, but there's a science behind that. And yeah, okay, I drive it because it's environmentally safe and all that stuff, but I found out that people leave you alone when you're not a decoy. See, I'm not one of these hip-hoppers that want to advertise how much money I have.
What I think is amazing, and I mentioned Canadian connections, is it true that Scott Storch was born in Halifax? Is he a Canadian?
He's indeed a Canadian, born and bred in Halifax. Damn, you are great, man. He relocated, I think, to Philly when he was, I think Florida first and then Philadelphia when he was 6.
He's one of the greatest producers in hip-hop today is Canadian.
Yeah, like y'all got a lot to be proud of.
And that's what I'd like to ask you about here. This winding up finally. I asked this to Africa Bambaataa, but he did not believe me. Now, first off, what do you know about this record right here? This is the foundation of hip-hop, isn't it? In the incredible bongo band.
Yes, the Apache break is indeed one of the most coveted love songs in the hip-hop era, and this album also holds the distinction for being one of the first non-live band sources to be on a hip-hop record. Grandmaster Flash spun this record on the Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel back in 1981.
Total foundation of hip-hop. Now let me put this forth. If you look closely on the very back of the record, it says thanks to Can-Base Studios, Vancouver. It was recorded in Vancouver. Have you heard about this before? That the foundation of hip-hop is Canadian.
Wow, you got me with Manny Fresh and you got me with the Incredible Bongo Band. So this was recorded here in Vancouver.
It was recorded in Vancouver with some session musicians from LA, but also some local cats. Like, I met one of the drummers that played on that, and he said he's all over like a Nas beat that's on the radio. It was recorded in Vancouver.
Yes, I mean, pretty much everyone has used, I'm a live drummer, and I myself had to bow down and use an Apache break, because it's something about that break. When it comes on, that's like spiking the punch. It's absolutely spiking the punch.
I asked Africa Bambaataa about that, but he didn't believe that it was recorded in Vancouver. He thought I put it on there, but it really was.
You should know better. I mean, at the rate where his favorite group, Kraftwerk, was from Germany, then you guys are allowed to claim something. I know that, you guys get a little semi-bad rap about certain things. I said about. But pretty much, we got respect for Canada. Where do we go when we don't want to fight a war? We'll come to Canada.
And we invented hip-hop.
Yes, and you invented hip-hop and the conscientious objector.
And lastly here, Questlove, why was this record so important to you?
Well, let's see.
This is Headless Heroes of the Apocalypse by...
The genius. This is Eugene McDaniels. This man, he's a songwriter. He came up with Roberta Flack and Les McCann. Kind of put him on. He was very controversial. I know that when this album came out, Spiro T. Agnew, the Vice President of the United States, was none too happy about it. And Spiro T. Agnew called up the president of Atlantic Records, the late Ahmet Ertekin, and wanted him removed from the label, and effectively also had him blacklisted from playing clubs and I mean, that was back in the days when the government had nothing else better to do but actually meddle in your business and make your life hard. But then they want you to pay taxes. I would never stop anybody from working because I want to get taxes. Anyway, this is one of the most expensive records that I've ever purchased. In my digging days, I think that I brought 2 of these albums for, one was $300, the other one was like $4 something. But this is like back in the day when the value of a record. The reason why this record is so dope is because pretty much, with the exception of one song, everything is absolute sample material beyond your wildest dreams. Like the funkiest stuff, so funky that you could play it bare without necessarily even have to use it in a rap song. Like I listened to it just for the enjoyment. But he was a very, very angry man, and he goes against people. There's a song, Jagger the Dagger, that Tribe actually sampled it on their first album. But the Jagger the Dagger, he talks about how he felt as though Mick Jagger sort of pimped black music and sort of made it his own and cashed in from the legends of his own. But probably the song that I get the most enjoyment out of playing for people and scaring the living lights out of them is the last song on the album called The Parasite. Whenever Thanksgiving comes around, the Roots do a show, I play the song, and I sort of peek at the audience to see their reaction. And as each minute goes by, it goes from to... Did you just hear that? What is it? To... First time I did it was at a Lauryn Hill show. And of course, like we were opening for Lauryn Hill, and she has a whole conservative audience, everything. Oh, see Lauryn Hill, we're cool. And I turned up the volume more and more as that song got more and more offensive. It's a tale of how colonialism sort of destroyed America. The tales of the Pilgrims and the Indians, but he's very, very descriptive, very detailed on how he felt that the Pilgrims and the Indians sort of had an interaction, not the necessarily Thanksgiving myth that America teaches you, but really the blood that was shed. And
where else has he showed up, sampled-wise? You mentioned Tribe Called Quest. Who else has sampled him?
Pete Rock has sampled him. Tribe Called Quest has sampled him. Common has sampled him. De La Soul sampled him. A lot of, like, the period in which he was sampled. Oh, the Beastie Boys, of course. Get it together. See what's happening. That's him. Even though they tried to stop him, he still made a living. He wrote That's the Time I Feel Like Making Love for Roberta Flack. He produced a majority of her records. So, I mean, even if he was stopped, like his publishing checks alone will enable him to not starve to death. But my tragedy was that the only tragic accident that the Roots were ever in, I woke up one morning, 6 a.m, driving through Denver, Colorado, and I was sitting with my bus driver, and I looked on the side of the road, and I saw a metal stand. It was they're kind of random on the road, and he had to swerve to the left to avoid it. And next thing I saw a trap case on the floor. I was like, okay. And that's drumsticks. What the hell? Drumsticks? Like the slower we were driving, we saw all this stuff laid out on the road. Drumsticks, record. Wait, was that? Stop the bus! And we noticed that 10 minutes earlier, our equipment trunk had turned over 8 times and totally spilled the contents all over the road. So once we drove upon it, everything was salvaged, sort of, except for the first record that was in my record crates. And there's a big-ass gash right here. So ever since I lost this $300 record, I've been a total supporter of CDJ 1000s and Serato.
This is the one Roots promotional item that was ever made.
I'm very happy that someone took the initiative to make this near Rubik's puzzle of the Game Theory album.
There's M&M condoms and Roots.
And Roots blocks.
Rubik's cubes.
Yes, Roots Bex cube.
Well, thanks so much, Questlove. Keep on rocking in the free world and doot-doodaloo-doo.
Check.
Thank you. Word.
Thank you.